The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. As Jesus was walking by the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, who is called Peter, and his brother Andrew. Casting a net into the sea, they were fishermen. He said to them, "Come after me, and I will make you fishers of men." At once they left their nets and followed him. He walked along from there and saw two other brothers, James the son of Zebedee and his brother John. They were in a boat, and their father Zebedee mending their nets. He called them, and immediately they left their boat and their father and followed him. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Today we have the calling of the apostles, and the very first person to be called was Andrew. He had a younger brother. His name was Simon. Andrew and his brother were in the family business. They were fishermen. And James and John also were in the family business. They worked for their father. Now, Andrew had been a follower of John the Baptist. So he would have heard from John about his cousin Jesus, the Messiah. So when Jesus comes along, obviously immediately Andrew would recognize who he was talking about. Anybody here who went on the pilgrimage? Well, you know all about the Sea of Galilee. You were there? Yes, of course. Did you see any fishermen?
There wasn't a fisherman there.
There was?
Yes, exactly when we were praying.
Yes. But back in Jesus' time, the place would be full of people fishing. And in fact, around the Sea of Galilee at that time, there were 10 cities. That's why you often hear them referring to the Decapolis, which is a Greek word. Deca means 10, polis is a city. There's 10 cities. Today, there's only one. It was a village back there. Today, it's a large town called Tiberias. So, Jesus calls them. And it's interesting to note that immediately they followed him. So I've often wondered what happened to their wives? What happened to their children? Did they just abandon them? Well, of course, we don't know. Certainly Peter was married. Well, he had a mother-in-law, so he must have been married. But there's no mention whatsoever of what transpired with their families. But I'm sure they did not abandon them. Jesus calls them, and of course they enter the very first seminary. The very first seminary. And for 3 years, they listened to the Lord. He preached to them and he taught them. And then they set out to preach the gospel to the entire world. All of them, except John, died a martyr's death. Every one of them. Andrew in Greece. John escaped to the island of Patmos, and there he remained for the rest of his life. He wrote, of course, the fourth gospel. He was 85 when he died. And in fact, Pope Clement, who was the third pope after Peter, probably knew John. We're all called to follow the Lord. Every one of us called to follow the Lord. To do the things he did, to preach the word that he did, maybe not by our words, but certainly by the way we live our lives, the way we conduct ourselves, in church, out of church, at home, in the neighborhood, wherever, to conduct ourselves as Jesus would want us to conduct ourselves. Remember what he said? Anyone who comes after me must deny himself. deny himself. And of course, the season of Advent is a season of denial, when we especially prepare ourselves for celebrate the birth of the Lord. It's not about Black Friday, or now, which has become Black Thursday, of course. And in a couple of years' time, it'll be Black Wednesday, you could be sure. That's okay. There's a place for everything. But the most important thing is the spiritual preparation that we have to do for the next 4 weeks, so that on Christmas Eve, we will celebrate the birth of the Lord in a proper religious way.